So I've got now a low attention span for my office because we've been in home offices for so long. So welcome everyone. For those of you who are new, and it's great to see some new names and faces pop up. My name is Alex Tullio. I'm the CEO of Financial Executive Women, otherwise known as FEW, and we are a member organisation that is all about progressing women and our careers. And we know that the best way to do that is to provide an amazing community, really deep support networks, mentoring, advocates, and of course, amazing events like this. So welcome, we're very thrilled to have you here. And as always to our members and regulars, so good to see you. You have no idea how humbling and heartening it is to see regulars turn up and decide to spend an hour almost with us many days a week. Cam, good to see you, mate. And you're right, the weeks go so fast. I know, I can't believe it's Thursday's live stream again. So here we are. What have we got coming up? Well, we've got plenty coming up. And before I get to that, if you are new to our FEW Connect live stream, you won't know, but we actually offer this for free to all employees of our amazing corporate partners. And I do say this every day because a big part of the reason why we keep showing up is at the start of this lockdown, the first one, if you're in Melbourne, we just wanted to show up for the community and connect people and have this sense of community. And we've built such an incredible group of people. So please do keep sharing this link. It is free to all employees of our amazing corporate partners. Of course, we wouldn't be here without those corporate partners either. So thank you as always for your support and your participation. There are so many great guys and girls as part of this community. Now, we have a whole range of things coming up, not least our fabulous guest today, Donna, but I'm going to introduce Donna in just a moment. So next week, we've got, I love having amazing men on, and we've had some such great male guests and we'll continue to do so, but I do love to see a week of powerhouse women coming up again. So on Tuesday we've got Christy Poulos, and I know, Cam, you know Christy really well. Now, not only did she work at Red Bull, but you were saying yesterday that she sent a man to space for a video.
Yes, that's right. So if anyone can remember that the time when, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but they sent him into the stratosphere and he then jumped out of the spacecraft, technically in space, and went all the way down to back to Earth, and actually made a Red Bull video, which has now been viewed like 10 million times or something. And the story of how they did that and the logistics involved of putting it on is nothing short of amazing. So if we think it's difficult to put a live stream on 3 days a week, well, Alex, wait till I send you to space.
You know, as always, I hear you say things like that and I'm really nervous for what's going to happen next for us. But, you know, I'll just go with the flow as always. So Chrissy's going to be super interesting. And she's got just an amazing journey as well. She's had a global career, fascinating woman. Then we've got Natasha Janssens. Now, Natasha is the founder and CEO of Women with Sense. So this is all about our relationship with money, our money identity, how we attach it to our self-worth. So there's so much there and some really practical tips, and I think a very important conversation that I'm sure, Donna, you and I are going to probably cross over on some of this today as well, around the gap for women in super, money, financial stability. So this is a big conversation. So Natasha's going to be great to speak to next week. And of course, Nikki Smith. Now, some of you will know Nikki and have seen her before in her masterclasses. She's a psychologist and career coach. And what I love about Nikki is that she really helps break things down to what she calls mini experiments, bite-sized chunks, and really zoning in on being able to find and articulate our strengths. And I don't know about all of you, that is actually really hard to do for yourself. So Nikki's on next Thursday. And of course, incredible masterclasses as always. So we've got the awesome Simon Dowling's masterclass tomorrow. Now, as I do say, remember that these masterclass events for our members, this is part of your membership. So really do take advantage of these. We've got them on at 12 o'clock on Fridays now based on your feedback. That seems to be a great time slot. So it's not too late to register. Cam's already put the link in the chat for our members, or of course you can just go to our website. And as I like to say as well, for those of you who aren't yet our members range from grads right through to senior women at executive level. We have so much to offer in this community, in this membership. You can see that we're very passionate about what we do. And I'd love to welcome you to try one of our events on us. So why don't you come along to our masterclass with Simon tomorrow as a gift? And again, Cam has just put a link in the chat as well, because we so believe in what we do and the importance of what we do. Now, as a quick side, you'll see I've got books behind me. And Cam, this is emerging. The last few episodes, we keep having some really great book suggestions. And you and I have been toying with a bit of a book club idea. But everyone seems to be super interesting on some good books. And as it would turn out, I actually have, if you can see, this is actually Simon Dowling's book, Work With Me. So this is a super book. If he's a master around collaboration and how to get people to buy into your ideas. And this is one of the things that he'll cover tomorrow in his masterclass, but super important because especially as we don't even have the face-to-face anymore, so it's more important than ever to be able to communicate and positively influence. So if you're interested, Simon Dowling, Work With Me, is an excellent read for that. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Donna de Zwart, our amazing guest today. So for those of you who don't know Donna, let me introduce Donna formally and then we'll get into our chat. So Donna de Zwart is the Chief Executive Officer of Fitted for Work, a not-for-profit dedicated to helping women in Australia experiencing disadvantage to get work, keep work, and navigate through working life with success. Over the past 15 years, Fitted for Work has supported almost 40,000 women to build economic security through employment. In her previous leadership roles in the commercial, VET and higher education sectors, Donna worked on empowering disadvantaged people with diversity and inclusion strategies. But once she joined Fitted for Work, she found there was more to learn. While Donna understood from a personal perspective how important it is for a woman to experience the dignity that work brings, Donna is inspired every day by the difference that Fitted for Work makes in women's lives, their families' lives, and their community. She sees time and time again that with the right support and skills, women can transform their lives and the world. Donna believes every woman has the right to employment and a sustainable future because when a woman is fitted for work, she is fitted for life. Donna, I've got goosebumps. Let's take that slide down. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Alex. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, look, my absolute pleasure. And God, there's so much. I have been talking you up in the lead up to this because I've been so looking forward to the conversation today because not only are you a fantastic leader, businesswoman, and what you do is incredible, I think there are some really important messages and themes that we're going to tap into today. So a good place always to start is it's one thing for me to read out a bio, but tell us a bit in your own words, what's the Donna de Zwart story? How did you end up here?
Well, I think like a lot of women, it was not an aha moment where I woke up and said I want to be a CEO of a not-for-profit. Life takes lots of twists and turns. And yes, I've always been drawn to helping people less fortunate than us, but I did it in a corporate setting, which was really interesting in the diversity and inclusion space. And whilst I was working, I had lots of things happen in my private life. My husband passed away when I had 2 quite young children, and there was a whole lot of drama that unfolded as a result of that, and particularly in the financial arena. And when this job I came across this job, I was really encouraged to apply for it. I thought I had nothing to lose. My children were grown up at that time. And it absolutely was the perfect fit. So now I feel like I'm at a stage in my life where I can give back.
Well, there's so much to that, and thank you for sharing. That's a personal story as well. So what, God, there are so many, my head's spinning with all the questions where I want to start, but I think maybe a good place to start is I've described a bit about what Fitted for Work does, but I'd like to get into that in more depth because I remember when you and I first had our met, back in the days when you could meet in person. So we've only ever met over Zoom. One day, Donna, we will get together in person. But in our first chat, I remember I said to you, oh, Fitted for Work, you do great work. I remember I've donated clothes and I know you help women get jobs and help with CVs and have the right outfit. And I remember you said, well, yes, and we do so much more than that. And I think for a lot of people, they would probably have the same picture in their head about what Fitted for Work does. So give us a bit of a story over, or tell us how all the other things that you actually do aside from just that.
Yeah, so I suppose the first thing is to say that, you know, our overwhelming belief is that every woman in Australia deserves economic security. And we believe the best way for women to get economic security is through employment. We know that money doesn't buy you happiness, but what it does buy you is it buys you the choice as to how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
So for some women, it might be about leaving a really bad situation. For other women, it might be around staying in a really good situation. And for other women, it might be starting a whole new story for themselves. But money does give you that choice. And we know, as I said, the best way and the quickest way is employment. So at Fitted for Work, all of our services revolve around getting women ready for work, helping them find work. And then we know the problems don't necessarily go away once you start work. Often they can be exacerbated. So how do we help women stay in work and then navigate that world? So we've developed a number of services over the years, and you're quite right. We did start purely with the clothing aspect. We were very fortunate. 15 years ago, we had two women, two friends entering sort of the third stage of their lives, wondering how they could give back. Great philanthropists in their own right, Marion Webster and Renata Singer. And they literally started out of their garage because if you can imagine 15 years ago, even the options for women who were doing it tough to dress themselves for a job interview was difficult. We didn't have all the cheaper clothing options that we do today. And that's questionable too on another level. So from there, the service has really grown exponentially. But what has grown, I suppose, is our understanding that we have to practice what we preach. So we can't be talking to women about economic security and the choices that that gives you and the self-determination if we don't have it for us as an organisation. So traditionally, not-for-profits survive on trusts and foundations and donations, and some not-for-profits do get government funding. We don't receive any recurrent government funding at all and never have. So it is a very unsustainable model. And this time in particular is where through COVID and the bushfire crisis and so on, you'll see lots of not-for-profits not surviving as a result, because people don't have money to give or they're donating to other sorts of charities. So 5 years ago, we started on a journey of building our own social enterprise through Fitted for Work. And our most successful to date and our biggest is Supervention. So traditionally, our model has been that by the time women come and see us, and I know for all the women on the call, you'll know this, women are not great at putting their hand up and asking for help. Often we wait until we are in dire straits because we think we have to sort it out ourselves. So traditionally, our model has been by the time women come and see us, they are literally Googling how to live out of their car with their kids. We're their last option. They've gone through what little savings they have. They've gone through what little super they may have. And this is really the last call. But we believe and always have that we could stop that trajectory down if we could get to women much sooner in their journey. So about 2 years ago, we approached the Commonwealth Bank. And we knew that with Commonwealth Bank, they'd done their own research and had certainly been great advocates around women and domestic abuse and financial abuse and helping their customers that way. But we knew that a trigger point that a woman was about to go into financial crisis is when she can't repay her loan, when she's late on her payments with the car. And there could be a whole lot of reasons around why that might happen. And we knew that if we could connect with women right at that point, that would make a big difference in her trajectory forward. And so we set up a commercial partnership with Commonwealth Bank, and they now have a hotline that they pay for directly to us. And the minute a woman enters financial hardship, she is offered our services. And we know we have a 90% conversion rate of those women who've offered our services. We'll take them up. And we've had amazing results, those early intervention results. So if you're a woman over 45 today in Australia, and I suppose I'm really talking pre-COVID because we don't quite know what the outcome's going to be, but pre-COVID, if you're a woman over 45, on average, it takes you 18 months to find another job. And in that time, you will have gone through your savings. You will have probably accessed some of your super as well, if you have any. So we followed a group of 460 women over 10 months. And in that 10 months, 77% got work within 64 days. So we know we can stop that trajectory, that downward spiral from happening. And that's been a game changer for us. Not only do we deliver face-to-face services, but through that commercial offering, we were able to extend our offerings, and we now deliver to every state and territory in Australia, and we can deliver every one of our services virtually.
Well, there is so much to unpack there. So I really want to come back and delve more into, because this partnership you've got with the Commonwealth Bank, I mean, that is really amazing. So I'd love to get a bit more into, as you say, these trigger events. The sooner we can get onto them and as you said, have an intervention at that point. I'd like to also just come back, though, to your point about not-for-profits, because, again, you and I chatted about this. I love that you're running this as a sustainable commercial business, because you're right, if you go under, then you can't help anyone. So what led you to actually, as a businesswoman and CEO, I mean, what led you to forging that partnership with the CBA? I mean, that's no mean feat, and what a great way to start to diversify your revenue streams and enable you to go even bigger. So how did that come about?
Certainly from my own background, I think that in the not-for-profit space, money can sometimes be seen as the enemy, as a bad thing. And for a not-for-profit to come out of a financial year and have a huge profit margin, that's somehow seen as bad. What we're seeing at the moment with COVID is we're seeing how hard it is for the not-for-profit sector, because we operate on such a lean margin, so that when something bad like this happens, for many not-for-profits, they will fall over. One of the things I think we have to get around, I was really interested to hear one of your guests, Natasha Janssens, who you've got coming up, talking about women's relationship with money. We really need to talk about that more. And I think we need to stop seeing money as a bad thing. For us, it's green energy. And when we get that energy, we can do so much more. We can tailor our services to every woman that needs us. So I think it's that, first of all, it's changing that attitude. And secondly, with Commonwealth Bank, I have to say they've been ahead of the game in terms of dealing with their vulnerable customers. And at Fitted for Work, I do a lot of public speaking, and often I'm asked, well, who are these women that you see? And it's interesting because often if we are in a job, we don't think we could ever be one of those women. But the reality is the women that we work with are women just like you and me. And if they're not us, then they're your mother, your sister, your auntie, your colleague. Any woman can experience disadvantage at any point in her life. And we see women from age 16 through to 65 plus. Some of those women will have not finished high school, and some of those women will have PhDs.
Yeah.
And we see women who never worked before, and we see women who are ex-CEOs walk through the door. So disadvantage can happen at any time. And I think we were thinking about how we could connect with women certainly earlier on, because we know this early intervention model would really work. And we were very fortunate to have a contact through our board, a member of our board, to Commonwealth Bank. And we've been under exclusivity with Commonwealth Bank for a period of time. That's been lifted, and we're now ready to take this model to other financial institutions, but not just other financial institutions. We believe it has a role with insurance companies, with superannuation funds, wherever funds stop being paid, because it solves not only a social problem, but an economic problem for the organisation as well. Because in the bank's case, women can repay their promise to the bank once they've got work.
Oh, absolutely. I love also, again, so many things. So first of all, money is green energy. Love that. And to all of you on the Zoom call, you actually have the ability to put comments and questions in the chat. So please do take advantage of that. I know Donna and I would love to hear your feedback, what's resonating, how do you feel about money, or any questions as well that you've got for Donna as we're talking. Donna, the thing that hit me again when we did our pre-chats behind the scenes, just what you said again about this could be anyone. I think we kind of think, well, this wouldn't happen to us. And I remember you saying, it can be a very, very slippery slope from when everything's fine until it's not. So how does that happen? I mean, and I know we're now tapping into some of the bigger sort of socioeconomic issues, right? But with all your experience and the research that you're doing and the women that you're helping, how does literally, as someone who's been a CEO with a PhD or a degree, you know, typically not someone who can be vulnerable, like how does this suddenly happen?
Yeah, it could be, oh, I don't want to say simple because it's not, it's complex. But if you think about financial abuse, domestic abuse, so it may be that you have a very senior role in your organisation, but your home life, you are being controlled. You have limited access to funds. It could be that something really awful happens that, as in my case, you know, my husband passed away suddenly. Suddenly you've gone from 2 incomes to 1 income. You know, my situation was complex too because my husband was an alcoholic, didn't work a lot. You know, we lost everything. And, you know, had to declare bankruptcy. Now, I'm not a stupid person, but, you know, I was drawn in by him saying that he was going to look after everything. And then suddenly I found myself with our income halved and a whole lot of debt that I didn't necessarily know about. So it can happen to anyone, or it may be that you're not in a relationship. You've got a great job, but something happens, an illness happens. You may be in your 50s, breast cancer, for example, you need to take time off work. Now, it may be that that's when the systemic issues we have around gender equality start to play out. You don't have a lot of super, you know, you're finding it after you've recovered almost impossible to get back into the workforce because you're not being taken seriously. And we know there's age bias out there. So it can happen in a whole myriad of ways. And, you know, when life seems to go wrong, there seems to be like a domino effect of other things going wrong as well. And I think, you know, for us, certainly we've got a great interest through another little project that we're doing called Cherry Women, and it's about older women taking a second bite of the cherry, but making sure that they set themselves up for success as they age. Because what I'm really scared about is the growing number of older women who are aging into poverty and homelessness. And it's going to be a real issue here in Australia if we don't do something about it.
And you think, God, again, so many ways to go, because you think, one, Australia is such a wealthy country. How does that happen? You then look, and I know when we were chatting, we were talking about, well, sure, all minds we're focused on COVID and this global pandemic now, but before that, there were the bushfires and drought. And so this is where we're seeing it's not just one crisis, it's multiple crises on top of everything else. What do you, I mean, obviously you would have some thoughts, I'm sure, on, you know, early release super and the fact that so many women are now, you know, pulling your superannuation out and understanding that for some people there's no choice, but this is going to have an even bigger knock-on effect, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's seen as a quick term solution to a problem. And, you know, we get concerned around financial abuse, women being encouraged to draw that money out of their super as well, being coerced to do it by someone else in their family potentially. But yeah, it is going to play out. And that's why I think the whole issue around gender diversity is so important, because it's the systemic issues. We quite often hear lots of younger women saying, well, I've never been impacted by, you know, gender inequality. Well, often that's because it hasn't played out yet in your life. You know, you only need to get to be in your 50s where maybe you've only worked part-time or casually, and then your marriage falls apart, and then you don't own any property. And before you know it, you're in your 60s and you're still not eligible for the pension, but, you know, you're struggling to find work. So it's those systemic issues that we need to change as well. And equality is so important.
Absolutely. And it's obviously we're really passionate about this in this community. And I think, you know, having these conversations is such an important part, isn't it? Because none of us have the silver bullet, but we all together, we can all contribute and play a different role. I think it's interesting what you say, that potentially younger women say, well, I've never had an issue around diversity and equality. And I think you're right. I think, unfortunately, there's some really endemic issues that are still to play out. Got a couple of comments in the chat as well, Donna. So first of all, Anne-Marie, thanks for your comments. Love money's green energy, yep, and just agreeing that obviously all the things we're talking about, I mean, this pandemic, I mean, it's just amplified challenges that were already there, but now it's really amplified what's happening with whole industries in distress, as Anne-Marie says. So first of all, we'd like to know more about Cherry Women. Yes, tell us more about that.
So this is a bit of a side project for Fitter for Work, and we received some funding through the Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation about 2 years ago, because tonight approximately 48,000 women in Australia will be homeless. They're the recorded numbers. Now,
can you just say that again, please?
Yeah, so tonight, 48,000 women in Australia will be homeless. Now, that probably is quite a conservative number, and that doesn't mean that that is just women sleeping rough on the street. That is women sleeping in their cars, couch surfing, having no secure address. Now, that number pre-COVID was estimated to rise to 500,000 in the next decade or so. So we have a big problem here. And like I said, it goes back to unequal pay, you know, superannuation and so on. And so there were a group of us from various not-for-profits. One is Good Shepherd, Australia, New Zealand. Another is the Women's Property Initiative. Another is, it's a commercial organisation, which you may know of, Taking Shape. But there are a number of us that came together who've got real concerns. We have some academics as well, real concerns about this growing number of women, you know, around poverty and ageing. So we've come together and we're forming a group. It's called, as I said, Cherry Women. We have a website. And we also have an app that we're showing as well, and it is in development at the moment. But it's a really important issue to start to address those things that women don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about what it will look like when they retire. Where are you going to live? Are you still going to be working? You know, I think we're so used to dealing in the day to day because we lead such busy, complex lives. And, you know, you layer that with family responsibilities, caring responsibilities, and so on. We only ever think a couple of days ahead. If we can just get through today, if we can just get through next week. And then by the time it's clear to us that we're facing a financial problem as we get older, it's sort of too late.
Yeah.
We need to start talking about it really when women are much younger. But, you know, we're really targeting women aged from 45 plus to start having these conversations, and we want to provide the information that they need. You know, we know that life is not linear. It goes off in different directions, and you may have started your life married with a couple of children, and then your marriage might break down, and then you might meet someone else. Well, all of that impacts on your financial health. But what do you do about those situations and your financial health? And I don't think we connect the two as women, and that sets us up for disaster down the track.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a tendency, and not just for women, but there's a tendency, it's a bit of the head in the sand, and you're putting yourself last, and oh, it'll be okay. And you're right. I mean, and then before you know it, it's gotten away. So I'm really super interested as well, what you were saying before. And I feel like, you know, this isn't linear either, but it's such a great conversation. I feel like, as always, we could fill way more than half an hour. So, but, you know, you were saying before about the earlier intervention and what you've found about being able to place the women that you've been tracking in jobs in 64 days instead of, what did you say? Typically it's 15 months for women over, or 18 months for women over 45, you were saying before. So what is it? So let's talk about then how are you impacting that? Like, what is it that you're doing that is shortening that time frame and getting jobs for women?
Well, number one, we listen to their stories. Women need to tell their stories. I think by the time a woman might put her hand up and say she needs our help, whether they come through the Commonwealth Bank program or whether they're referred to us through another agency, there's a lot of shame around, I don't know how I got here. You know, I've had a job all my life. I've never not worked, and suddenly I don't have a job. And can I just say, with COVID, we are going to see a whole new cohort of women who've always worked and suddenly find that there are not enough jobs out there. So watch out for that.
Yeah.
But I think it's about saying first, well, tell us your story, because it's often around, it could be around domestic violence. It could be around illness. It could be around relationship breakdown. It could be around all sorts of different things. So let's get the story first. Let's help understand where we're from. And then it's around tailoring the services for that woman. So, for example, if she has held a corporate role, then chances are she doesn't need a lot of help with her presentation. She gets that part of it. Or it might be that she hasn't had a resume for, I don't know, for 10 years. And suddenly that's all changed, how we put a resume together. But I think the secret is we tailor whatever service she needs to what her experience is. So if I can just share one example with you, Alex, and this is one end of the sort of extreme, if you like, or the continuum. We had a woman in far north Queensland, living in regional Queensland, who had been a carer for her mother for the last 10 years. And her mother had passed away, and she was referred through to us because her carer payments had stopped and she now needed to seek work. So she hadn't sought work for 10 years. So we rang her and we said, okay, let's start with a resume. Let's send a couple of things through to you to get that started. And we asked her if she had an email address, and she said, no, I don't. Then we said, okay, do you have access to a computer? She said, no, I don't have one. Okay, where's your nearest library? Well, that's 100k away and I don't have a car. Okay, do you belong to any clubs? No, but I do volunteer on a Friday night at the local RSL club. I sell raffle tickets and they give me a free meal. Okay, do they have a computer there? Yes, they do. Are you friendly with any of the staff there? Yes, I'm friendly with some of the bar staff. And from there, we managed to get her an email address, managed to get her resume up to date. We did a virtual outfitting session with her, and then we sent all the clothing up to her. We helped her source different roles that she could apply for, helped her with her interview skills, and she applied for a cleaning role and got that in her local area. So that's just one example, but it had to be tailored to her and her story.
Yeah, as you're saying that, again, I mean, gosh, goosebumps and thinking how fortunate we are, we all are. But the added challenge, I guess, of what you're just describing from regional and remote areas, I mean, we haven't even talked about that. And I think that's such a beautiful example of that. As you're saying that, Donna, I mean, how are you resourced? I mean, let's talk a bit more about Fitted for Work. And I mean, how do you manage to help so many women and do something that's so beautiful and bespoke and so important to do it that way? How do you do that? How do you resource that?
Well, basically our funding is split into 3 areas. So we are very proud of the fact we now raise at least a third of what we need through our social enterprises, and one of which I talked to you about. The other one, of course, is She Works, which is a recruitment service, because we have thousands of women come through our services who are ready to work. We're ready to actually connect with employers and send those women on. So that's a third. And then a third would be through our trusts and foundations. So that's all the family funds and the philanthropic funds. So we're constantly applying for grants. And then a third would be through our own fundraising efforts. So that would be donations and fundraising appeals, events that we might hold, that type of thing. And then in terms of how we're resourced, so the beautiful thing about, building our own financial sustainability means that we create jobs too. Mm-hmm. So we've got ex-clients that we've employed, and we have a staff of approximately 35 There's only about 10 of us that would be classified as full-time. The rest would be casual and part-time, but we're creating jobs in the process. And then we have an army of volunteers. So we have approximately 350 volunteers, and they range doing all sorts of different things, from sorting clothing donations to becoming mentors. And again, we do a lot of that now, or nearly all of it we can do online. So that's how we run.
Wow. And I know we're in a few minutes towards the end, we'll make sure we can show everyone how they can get involved, because I really want to leverage this platform as well for you. Well, so in terms of, we've talked about, there's some pretty big topics which we only have time to kind of skim the surface, but, we're talking about really societal and structural issues. We're talking about the shape of work. We're talking about diversity. I want to pick up on something that you were talking about before about, even if you have a very successful corporate woman on the outside, but at home you don't know what's happening. And Tony, it's good you put a comment in there about, this challenge, and I don't know, is it generational of the husband or man looking after the money, and the woman not really understanding the finances and what's happening. What role, how do we bring more financial literacy and training around that? Is that part of what you do with these women that contact you, or where do you think that plays a part in having women take more control over understanding their finances?
Look, I think I have to be very careful around, I suppose, mission creep. For us, we could be doing so many different things. Absolutely. And our focus is definitely on employment. However, we work very closely with a number of other organisations who specialise in, financial wellbeing and so on. And one thing, that's just a personal gripe that I have, but one thing I think we do talk about, and we do it as women ourselves, I know I do it, we talk about financial literacy. And I don't think that's quite right. I think women do understand money. Mm-hmm. If you had none and you still managed to keep a roof over your head and feed the kids, you understand the value of money. You understand how money works. It's not financial literacy per se. It's about more around, how we grow our money, how we grow our wealth. And I think we do women a disservice. I mean, how many male financial literacy programs are there?
God, such a good point. And it's, as you say that, it's the importance of language and words, isn't it? Because you're quite right. I mean, that's exactly what I've said, but the minute you've sort of challenged that, you're completely right that maybe that's the wrong way to describe it. And I think it comes back to, relationship with money, wanting to talk about money. There's that whole piece that you mentioned as well, even through, it's not just the pay gap and inequality or having a job or part-time or maternity leave or any of those things, but it's also, asking for a pay rise, negotiating, it's all these things. And I think that you make a really great point. Do you think, and also as well about, your mission creep, I can completely understand that, because as you're talking, I'm sure all of us are going, wow, and what about this and what about that? And you're right, you've got to be disciplined so that you can deliver to your core service and do it really well. So, so you have, as you said, a lot of strategic partnerships and alliances around these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we absolutely do. I think strategic partnerships are really, really important, not only for us to be able to refer women on. So if, for example, we get a call and a woman says, I've just run away from a really violent situation and I need a job. And in talking to her, we find out that she has nowhere to live. Well, that's the number one priority, but that's not our specialty. So we will refer her on to an agency that will be able to help her. And then when she's got herself established, by all means, come back to us and we'll help you. I think what we do recognise as women is that, a job is not going to solve all your problems. We want to ensure that women have emotional, financial, physical well-being, and it's a whole ecosystem of things that needs to happen. We only need to look at childcare, for example, and what's happening with that at the moment and how that's going to impact on women being able to look for work. But that's not in our remit. Housing affordability, but that's not in our remit. So there's a whole lot of things that need to come together to ensure that women have the best possible chance of living a good life.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, because what you're saying there is there's big issues that you can't solve all of them, but you can play your role really well and play that strongly, and then collaborate with others to because you're right, this is not simple, and we're not doing it justice in half an hour. So clearly you're going to have to come back as well. I've got repeat guests lined up, Donna, so we'll do another one with you for sure. We're so close to running out of time. Just quickly before we go to how can we get involved more practically, I'd love your thoughts on what does the future of work look like for women? I mean, you're right, we don't even know the impact of COVID. In terms of, we know that women are going to be one of the most affected groups. So we've touched on a few things, but what do you think the future of work does look like for women in your experience?
Yeah, so a lot of the calls that are coming through to us are at the moment, and we know that what's happened in Australia over the last 7 months has impacted women disproportionately. Why? Well, we know that majority of roles in casual and part-time and so on are held by women, and then you've got the complexities of homeschooling, and then I've got the rise in domestic violence and all the rest of it. So we know women are impacted, but I do think this is a beautiful opportunity at this point in history to change the way we work, and we've seen that. We've seen things that we never thought would happen before, and we're all working from home. I don't think, many of us would say that's how we want it to stay forever, but I think we're going to find some balance at some point. The pendulum swung too far one way, and now it's swung too far the other way, but we'll find a balance. So we know we can do the whole work from home. I think that suits women. I think that really suits women a lot. But where will those job opportunities be? So I know that the government is talking about lots, and whether it's federal or state, they're talking about lots of physical infrastructure projects, and they're talking about the creation of 1 million jobs through those infrastructure projects. That's great. But what's the proportion of jobs there that are going to be applicable to women? I think it's safe to say that currently under 3% of those sorts of roles are occupied by women, and we want to open the doors absolutely for women to go into those roles. But let's be honest, not every woman wants to do that. But what we have seen with the working from home, we've seen health go online. We've seen education go online. We're hearing more and more about the emerging industries like the clean energy industries. Now, these are all roles, I think, allied roles that have been created through these industries that would be very suitable for women to be able to not reskill, upskill the current level of skills that they've got, and there should be short, sharp pathways to be able to do that. But we're going to need to see some real investment in digital infrastructure. And I really think that this is just a fantastic opportunity for women to move into that STEM sector, which is what we've been wanting for a long time.
I love it. There's so much there, but I think it's a really positive frame, and I think you're absolutely right. So it's upskilling is a really great emphasis. So tell us, Donna, how can we get involved? I mean, the community that we've got here, we've got lots of corporates in financial services, professional women, passionate women and men, all wanting, I'm sure, to know how we can get involved. So just talk us through what we can do and what would help you in the great work that you're doing.
So we've listed 4 ways you can get involved. Number 1, if you're interested in the supervention program and you think it could be something that would be suitable for your industry or your organisation, please contact me, talk to me about that. Similarly, if you're interested in your workforce and ensuring that you have a diverse workforce and ensuring that you give women a go, and can I just say, these women who've been through our program are no longer experiencing disadvantage. They are moving out of disadvantage, which does not mean they're going to be hard work in your organisation. So if you're looking to employ someone, again, through me, you can contact me. You can follow us on all our social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. You can certainly get a lot of information off our website. We would also say if you can make a financial donation, we would very happily accept a financial donation. As I said, we're on the road to financial sustainability, but we've only got a third of that. Every year we've got to start from scratch, so we'd be very grateful. And the fourth way, if you are interested in fashion, with the clothing that we do receive, and it's all donated, we get amazing stuff. We have vintage, we have wild and wacky designer stuff, amazing stuff that we can't necessarily give to our clients. So we have an eBay store where we sell those items of clothing, and it's also part of our environmentally sustainable strategy that we have at Fitted for Work. For every piece of clothing that comes in, we have a home designated to that. Nothing goes back into landfill.
That's amazing. So everyone, there are ways, and Cam, thanks. You've put all the links in the chat there. So please do support. This is some amazing work. And Donna, again, we'll have to do part 2 because we've only just touched the surface. And Belinda, thanks for asking, can we please get a recording? There's rich content to digest. I agree, there's loads to digest. For those of you who don't yet follow Few on LinkedIn, if you follow our page on LinkedIn, you will actually see that this is streaming live on LinkedIn at the moment, and you can see the recordings there, so you can rewatch these. And of course, please share, because if we can create more awareness of the great work that Donna and the team at Fitted for Work are doing, then that's absolutely what we want to do. So Donna, and thanks Cam, has just put the link to the video. God, Cam, you're on it today. Makes a nice change. Just joking. But Donna, thank you so much. That's gone super fast, and such an inspiration. And thank you for all the work that you do and for being here. And obviously we need to come up with some sort of collaboration between Few and Fitted for Work. So I can see Tony nodding as well. So let's work on that for sure.
Terrific. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks everyone for listening today, and stay safe.
Yeah, you too. Thanks again. Thank you, everyone. Well, it's Thursday again. Don't forget the masterclass tomorrow at 12, Simon Dowling. If you've ever wanted to work out how to collaborate, influence positively and softly, then he's the man for you. And we'll see you next week, as always, same time, same Few channel. See you there. And thanks again, Donna. See you soon.